I'm Maggie Cully from Round Rock, Texas, and I'm a very happy 8th grader at Grisham Middle School. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make my enchanted duck salad. I was inspired by Uchiko, where I staged, but it's not like Paul didn't tell me what was in it. Anyway, so let's get started. Okay, so now I'm going to start my candied kumquats. And if you don't have kumquats, you can substitute with oranges. You would just cut them differently. So you're going to use your claw to make sure none of your fingers get hurt and rock the knife ever so smoothly. That way you can get even-ish circles as much as possible. And be sure to save the butts because the butts are what should go in smoothies afterwards. So I always save them. And once you think you have enough, this is probably about enough for one jar, you're just going to take them over to the sauce pot over here. Okay, so now we're going to start with the candying process of the kumquats. So you want to put your liquids in first in a cold pan. So 1 cup of water and 1 cup of Prosecco. Relax, it's not like I'm drinking it. And all the alcohol content burns off after it's been cooked. Okay. And just a cup of that. And then a cup of sugar. And then, of course, your kumquats. Stubborn little kumquats. Okay. And now you just want to stir it, and don't stir it too fast or else the wind will cool it down too quickly. And this is like risotto. You can't walk away from it. You have to babysit it. And once it's reduced by half, then you know that they are ready to go. Okay, so you can tell that the kumquats are done because it's come to a boil and it has reduced by half, which is exactly what you want. And you can see the syrup is forming, which is the perfect consistency. So now what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to set it aside. Make sure you turn off the stove. Okay, so once these are set aside, then you want to start grilling your endive and start working on your duck. Okay, so now moving on to the duck, the first thing you want to do is make sure it's at room temperature and make sure it's dry before you score it. And I know this might look a little silly, a cutting board on a cutting board, but I don't want to cross-contaminate because I'm going to be cutting the endive on here later. So once you know your duck's dry, you want to do firm diagonal cuts, but make sure it only goes through the duck fat. You don't want it to cut the actual duck. And you want to be sure to use your claw, and I tend to do about 4 that way, and then you want to do some the opposite direction, and I tend to only do maybe 2 or 3 depending on how much fat is on the duck. So this one is probably going to be just fine for searing it like we're going to be doing. So now I'm just going to put the endive on my trusty Big Green Egg grill. This is one that a wonderful anonymous donor gave me for all my great charity work. So I do everything on this. Pretty good all-around grill. I mean, you can even make bread on it. So now we're just going to wait for those to turn a nice goldy brown color. Now for the fun part, constructing it and putting it all in the jar. So you want to start off with the salad, which would be the microgreens and the endive. So you want to just roughly chop the endive small enough that it's not like crazy biting. So you want it bite-sized, but it doesn't have to be pretty because the whole point is it's supposed to look like magical. So when you look in the jar and the smoke's coming out. So you want to get some of that off. Okay, so you're just roughly going to chop it. And just a little tip, because it's one of my biggest pet peeves. You want to scrape at the back of the knife, or else it'll dull out your knife faster. So I'm just going to add in the endive. Okay. And you can just go ahead and add in the microgreens. You don't want to use a knife with this because it can bruise it. So you want to just kind of pull it apart and put it in. It's okay if stems are in there. It's not going to be a big deal. So these are just some pea pod sprouts and some baby arugula and some baby spinach. And all the sprouts are on top. So since my jar is getting a little full, I'm going to kind of dig down to the bottom and make sure I get a little bit of everything, just like that. Now for the duck, you just want to rough chop it as well. And you want to make sure you use a different knife than you used to score it. And you want to make sure that your knife is sharp. And I'm just kind of cutting it, and you can see it is a beautifully cooked duck with just a little bit of pink. So once again, you want these in about bite-sized pieces, and feel free to rip it apart with your hands. It's going to be a little hot though, so you have been warned. So you don't want giant chunks, but you don't want them too small either, because you want people to see that duck and be, oh my goodness, a duck. And yes, there's a little endive that I missed on the first time. So I'm just going to get that duck in there. And now for personally my favorite part, we're just going to move the jar over here so we don't track liquid everywhere. So here are the candy kumquats, and here's the duck fat that I rendered out as we were going. So what I like to do is take a fork and the kumquats and get some, because you don't want all of that sugar and liquid and that syrup. So you want to just try and scoop some out into the duck fat. It's all going to go in anyway. And you want to try and get as many of them as you can. It's almost like a game. Because it's going to bring out that bitter yet sweet taste to everything. Alright. I'm just going to mix them up a little bit. And I'm just going to ladle them. You want to ladle it so you don't over pour. You're just going to drizzle it on top. So you get that lovely fatty taste and that lovely sweet and bitter taste from the kumquats, or oranges if you didn't have any kumquats. Okay, and that should be enough. I personally like a lot of kumquats. Actually, just a little bit more. Okay, there you go. Now for the smoke. This part can be a little tricky because it's all about timing with this. So you're going to need a lighter, a smoke gun. Of course, this is an optional step. I understand not everyone has a smoke gun. Okay, and you want to put the nozzle just in there. And I like to use applewood smoke because I just love the smell, and also it makes it so it's not as overfilling. So, switch. Okay. And now you're just going to light the wood. Okay. You want to close the lid a little bit. Okay. And now here comes the tricky part. You have to take the nozzle out and quickly lock it. Just like that. And yeah, there's going to be some smoke all over your kitchen for a little bit, which is why we disabled the smoke alarms in here. But that is my enchanted duck salad. And when you open it, you get the aroma of the smoke, and it's just magical looking into. And it's seriously like the moment in Ratatouille with all the fireworks going around in his mouth.